everyone. Welcome to the Perspective with Viv podcast. My name is Viv and welcome to the show. Today's title is Petals and Paintbrushes with Ovi Paulter. Now, Ovi is a floral oil painter, teacher, and non-profit founder, helping women reconnect with peace, identity, and beauty through slow, soulful creativity. She began painting during a season of deep burnout, not to become an artist, but just to breathe again. Now she teaches others to create without pressure, using non-toxic materials and a gentle step-by-step approach. Her message isn't about performance, it's about creating softness and belonging in a world that asks too much. Hi, Ovi. Thank you for joining me.
Hi, Viv. Thank you so much for having me. Truly appreciate it. Thank you so much.
It's my
To join.
pleasure. Yeah, I cannot wait to talk about this. I'm really excited. Let's start with the first question. Can you take us back to how your relationship with painting first began? What led you to this creative path?
So it's a complicated answer to this question. It was the culmination of not being able to handle many things. And what medicine and therapy were not able to reach, only art was able to reach. So I lived in survival mode for about 25 years before I picked up the brush. Why did I live in survival mode? We need to go back to when I was 16. So I lived in a household with mom, dad, maternal grandma, and maternal grandpa, and my sister. My father was not able to love anyone because he was not loved himself. So not through fault of his own, but that's a very huge, wound to a girl, I would say, not to be loved by a father. So when I was 16, my parents divorced, and then the same year, I was assaulted as a woman, and then somehow nobody was asking me how am I doing, what's happening. So I stopped asking myself, what am I doing, how am I feeling, what's happening, and I was going through the motions of what life threw at me. I had a job. I met my husband. He is one of my strongest relationships. My grandparents and my husband are my three strongest relationships in my life. So family, 7 years of infertility, moving from Lithuania to America, to be with my husband. And then finally, in the thick of it, I had a full-time job. I was trying to survive depression, depressive modes and anxiety attacks, all that stuff. My kids were six. My twin boys were 6. My daughter was 8. And so in the middle of it all, I couldn't function anymore. I went to the hospital. I came back. When I came back, I was doing therapy and I was doing medicine, and still it wasn't reaching the deepest parts of me, the ones that I think stopped growing when I was 16. And one very wise person said to me, you need to find a creative outlet or something. So I picked up the community class brochure, just like, community school where they have evening classes for adults in high school. And one of them was oil painting of all levels. And that was for about 2 years. It was painting, one painting for I learned all the basics from a very generous teacher. And I was painting one painting for about 10 weeks, once per week. I knew then that I saw some glimpses of something started to awaken. But during COVID, I found another teacher who worked with my nature. I have ADHD and get bored easily. So I learned to paint in one sitting, meaning I sit down, I finish the painting in 3 hours, I'm done. And that revived my soul. And that's when I realized that it's something very, very important to me, like a lightning bolt or like a straw, if you wish, to stir up the darkest parts of me and something comes out on canvas. So I never was, I never was born a painter. No, not one of those people who was born a painter and, started doodling from the childhood. I found it much later in life. And when I started gravitating towards flowers, one day I realized it's because of my grandmother. Truly like green thumb on steroids, everything she touched just blossomed. And I spent my summers with my grandparents, and so that was my safest place, in their garden, my safest place, my most happy place. And every time I painted flowers, I kind of felt like I'm going back, And so that's how I began to see the change in me. The part that was dormant, I guess, from whenever when I was 16, began to be present again in my life. I began to allow more things to live. I began to be able to feel more and to heal. And so I would say that even though I picked up the brush 7 years ago, 5 years ago is when I truly saw the meaning of it in my life. Yeah. So basically, I picked up the brush at the most overwhelming moment. I realized it's something that I like, that it's something that I really am enjoying, but that it's for me as my mission, as my passion. That was probably, I would say, 5 years ago I realized. And that it was actually healing me. Only back in the perspective I realized that. Not at that moment I realized that. So that's kind of how it happened that I found painting.
Thank you for sharing that beautiful story. So many things, so many feelings that I had as you said that. So thank you for sharing.
Oh, thank you, Viv. Thank you for being the platform for, to let people share their stories.
Thank you for that. So, was there a moment when painting moved from I'm exploring this as a hobby to healing? A time you realize this is more than art, this is medicine.
So I would say that during COVID, when I found a teacher that worked with my nature, that when I realized, I don't have to paint the same landscape for 10 weeks and it's killing my soul because it's taking so long. When I realized that this is a new way I learned, I was so happy I did not give up on painting because I just was so happy that at that moment, I found a teacher. And then when I started painting flowers, I would say like in this impressionistic style, the flowers that my grandmother loved, that I loved, like, peonies, lilacs, hydrangeas, all the things that have seared into my memory from her garden. That's when I realized that it's healing me. That going back to that safe place and bringing it back into my current life, that's when I realized it's truly is healing me because like part of the puzzle. Yes, I was doing therapy, I was getting medicine, I was taken care by my loving husband. He always supported me, always took care of me. But when I myself was able to do something, for my own healing, like take the matters into my own hands, so to speak, in a little small way, as painting at night when kids fell asleep, that's when it clicked. That's when it clicked that it's doing it, and I wanted to do more and more of it.
Thank you for that. So, you speak often about burnout and the pressure women carry. What do you
Yes.
wish more people understood about that experience?
So, only recently I started being curious as to why is it that why is it that art is so in my own experience, was so healing to me, that it was my lifeline, that quiet creativity, without pressure. I did apply some pressure on myself, but that's so I wish people knew that art is not just a luxury. When you go to some expensive art class and paint to achieve perfect masterpiece paintings and turn yourself into Picasso. I wish people knew that if they feel burnt out, that creativity of any sort, be it painting, be it putting pen to paper, being it throwing a clay, anything that remotely sparks their I would say curiosity, that there's a study from Drexel University that says 45 minutes of art making, not for some kind of productivity, not for some kind of pressure, not for some kind of result, but just because being in the moment, just 45 minutes lowers our stress hormone cortisol levels dramatically. And so what I wish people knew is that creativity, art, being in the moment with doing something with your hands can be a gentle way out of burnout. Because what happens is, since I started being curious, I'm not a specialist in this, but I looked into a few things, and our nervous system comes down. And meaning they go from like flight or fight mode, that survival mode, it goes into like the most highest level, which is, you have open growth mindset. You are open more to the world, and you can rest. So it's truly just all the positive things. And the most important thing is that it has to be no judgment zone. It doesn't matter if you do, if you color with colorful pencils, if you color in the mandala on the book from the dollar store for coloring for adults, or if you do, if you arrange flowers from Trader Joe's or from any grocery store, just as long as you keep that door open, cracked open towards that being in the moment. So that's what I would like people to know, that art is not a luxury. It's truly
A lifeline.
a lifeline. That's what I say, that it's my lifeline. And I create, like a lot of people, I live humbly. I create on my kitchen table, and the whole one of the side of the table is covered in paints. But I have a very supportive family. So when my in-laws come, we just cover them up with a tablecloth, and that's how it goes. And the whole kitchen is stuffed with supplies, but they tolerate me and they support me. So I'm very blessed that way.
That's beautiful, and that's so beautiful to hear. I'm happy as well. What is gentle creativity to you, and why is it powerful?
Okay, so that's a good question, Viv. Gentle creativity to me, for example, in the nonprofit that I just started, they call Floral Sessions with Ovi. Gentle means no pressure. You're not creating this painting for sale. You're not creating this painting for exhibition. You're just doing something just for yourself, not for others to see. You can show that to them, but not for others to see. And so, what I am trying to create, let's say people come to my in person session, gentle means from the moment they come in, I give them a hug, even tone of voice, gentle. Even the instruction. Now we do this for 5 minutes. No, when everybody's ready, we'll move on to the next step. And truly, like almost whispering tone of a voice, gentle speaking. And then the gentleness also means to me, do you know the principle of co-regulating? Meaning when people see that other people are at peace, that other people are creating or dabbling in something, when we see that, then our body says, okay, maybe I can do that too. And we give ourselves permission in a group. And it like lowers the group stress level down. So to see that people come in, and then whichever way they came in with, they leave lighter no matter what. I call it full heart. They leave with a full heart, I would say. So gentle creativity means not for performance, not for the show, without judgment, but just because and just for you.
I love that. That really resonates with me. And you've said your work isn't flashy, it's soft and rooted in presence. How do you invite people into that space of softness with themselves?
So I try to, at the beginning of a session, I try to say a few words specifically that, that's what we're doing. We are here to create art in a gentle way. We're painting flowers that already themselves are gentle things usually. They might have very vibrant, screaming colors, but the petals are gentle. So because I'm a floral painter, that's what I know how to teach. And I just say, please, this is no pressure zone, no judgment zone. I just say it, just invite them with by saying it vocally. And then I try to go around whenever let's say we're doing a step in the painting, and I try to find one thing about something they did that I like, no matter what's going on the canvas. And I try to encourage that. So for every single person, I try to say something positive. And I think that kind of opens people up, puts them at ease, No judgment, I think, is the most important, for them not to feel judged or not to feel like they're falling behind because they're slower. I think that's the most important thing. for them to relax and exhale.
I totally agree. So, is that how you teach presence through painting? How do you teach that?
So I do not do any breath work or anything. I just teach painting, and I just do it slow, and I just do it, I teach with oil paints, with non-toxic oil paints, because
Mm,
that's my medium. And I know acrylic is everywhere, but non-toxic oils is my medium. And I love it because there's no smells. It's so much better for our lungs, for our skin. And so I do not say, let's now stop and do this meditation. I don't do any of that stuff. Just the act itself of creating with their own hands, when I give them the step, it's like I try to choose very beginner friendly paintings that I practice at home, how to teach something that's not so difficult, but is very beautiful and powerful end result. So, like lilacs, next one is going to be sunflower field that we're going to be doing in June. I have 2 sessions. So the what I'm trying to do is just make people feel that, I can do this. I can do this. And some people have never worked or have never painted in their life before. Some people who come. Um, in the last session, there was a mom and a daughter duo, and daughter said her mom is a doctor, and she said, my mom painted for the first time in her life, and she was happy. That's all she said, that she was happy. And I think that's the whole point. Just they are from Ukraine, where the war is raging right now. And she just came for 2 weeks to America to visit her daughter because her duty calls her back. And that made me so happy. That made me so feel that it's such a blessing to be able to give it to people, freely. So it was very simple, there's no like, hey, found my calling of my life, I'm gonna be an oil painter. No, just my mom was happy. And in the pictures and videos that I saw later of her mom, she was smiling all the way through. So I was thrilled to be able to witness that.
that's a beautiful story. Thank you for sharing that with me. So, when we're talking about your paintings or your sessions, I love how you emphasize trusting the hands. What role does the body play in this emotional healing?
The hands. So I'm not an expert on this. I just read a little bit about it. And that Drexel University study just says whatever you do with your hands, 45 minutes, any type of art making, that's how they called it. So you know, be it clay or something, I think keeping our hands busy for 45 minutes in a gentle way, in a gentle fashion, puts us in the moment. It's one of the ways to put yourself in the moment when you do not think about the future, do not worry about past regrets, and you just are in the moment. And something about that being in the moment is magical to our nervous system. That's all I know about it. I still have to do further studies, but I'm not arguing with any university professors on that. If there's a
Yeah,
study, there's a study.
definitely.
So, I was just very happy I just truly just got curious. Why is it that painting was so, so powerful in my life and still is? And, so I found a few things, and this is one of the simple things that I found that was just written in simple language that I can understand as a human being, as a non-scientist. And I enjoyed, reading their results and everything, that it's something measurable. I think intuitively we all know that. Intuitively,
Mm,
so many um, art teachers or art therapists, we all know that art has a power to heal, especially in a holistic ways. When you look at health as a whole, not just your heart or your eyes or your head or your hands, but the whole person. And I think I also found in my research that there's an organization in Seattle, Washington, called Path with Art. And it's an organization that has a full blown program that gives access to art programs They have full funding. They are in existence for now, I think, 10 or 12 years. And they do their own research, and it just shows you have to qualify, show that you're of low income, but then they give you all this access to classes, to tickets to art events, to exhibitions. And their own research also is very interesting. I have to say so.
Yeah, I can imagine, definitely. I also feel the same way. So you work with non-toxic oils. Why is
Yes.
that choice important to you, both practically and symbolically?
So I did not work with non-toxic oils all the time. It's actually a very recent switch. It all started with a conversation. I am not a patient person with my family, and I was not happy with just creating art, selling it. I know many people would be happy with it, but I have a full-time job. That's how I support myself. But art is my full-time passion. So it wasn't satisfying my heart. Just sales, exhibitions, something was missing. So I decided I want to try teaching. So I had a conversation with one gift shop owner where I had my paintings for sale. And I said, would you be open to me teaching a class in your space? She said, yes, but I don't want toxic oils in my shop, only non toxic oils. So I started researching for the brand that would have non toxic oils. There were a few choices. Some choices where we have to take the powder, the pigment, and mix it. I'm like, no, this is too complicated. Um, then I found this company that is 25 years in existence, and they are in Oregon. And so I founded by two artists. It just clicked. They even in their own practice, they buy reused machines that they use in their factory. Everything from A to Z is environment friendly in their own production. So I was happy with that. I did a few trial paintings. It's a little different than toxic oils. The way it covers the canvas, it's a little thinner. And then I started getting this big dissonance in my head. How am I going to teach non toxic oils, but in my own practice, still be using toxic oils? And it just grew and grew, and I couldn't take that anymore. So I just cold turkey. I gathered all my oil paints, toxic oil paints, all my turpentine, everything. I waited for a hazardous waste collection in my county. I delivered it there. And then I got all non-toxic oils and I never looked back. So that happened like 3 4 months ago. It's really very recent change to me. And because it doesn't have smells, it's just pure bright color, pure, pigment mixed with walnut oil. I'm able to bring those workshops to people. So one of my workshops in June, actually, someone said, I have a very pregnant friend. She wants to come. And she feels safe to come because it's not toxic materials. So it's important to me that I'm able to do these workshops. If it was, smelly paint, I wouldn't be able to do that. I wouldn't be able to do that. My workshops with I like acrylics but I'm an oil painter, so I prefer to teach with oil paints as well. I'm most comfortable with this medium.
So, what do you love about this medium? And how do you approach layering or blending in your sessions?
I am an impressionist oil painter, which means we do not do we do a little bit of blending, but most everything is texture, very very expressive art, very expressive,
Like Monet?
like Monet,
All
like Monet,
right.
like one. Yes, very. It's not blended. You can see each brushstroke, so it's not like the end result of your painting after the session is not going to be like a realistic picture of the flower. It's going to be beautiful. It's still going to look like a flower, but it's going to be your expression of your soul, because I think, artists leave pieces of their soul in the canvas. So for that session, you're an artist for me. And so you express yourself. Some people like it softer, some people actually blend, but I do not blend too much. What I like about those particular oil paints and why I'm attracted to it, you have a little bit longer time to work with them as versus acrylics. Also, I think people might disagree with me, but I think that oils have more vibrant pigments, and flowers I think, are most vibrant things in nature. So it's only logical to have the most vibrant medium, to paint the most vibrant things in nature. And it just flows and works for me. I don't know. It's just beautiful.
It sounds
I'm in love with it.
beautiful. Yes, I can tell that you're in love with it. And I really love one of the techniques of painting that I do like is impressionist painting. I love a lot of the Monet paintings that I've seen. And yes, with color and with the way there's this I don't know how to describe it because I've never actually sat down to think about it, but it gives this whole otherworldly feel, like a vintage feel. When you view certain impressionist paintings, it takes you back. And I don't know where back is, but I know that it takes me somewhere. Do you agree?
I agree with you because, Impressionist paintings are more about a feeling than exact depiction of what you see in front of you. So, for example, when I paint, my favorite way to paint is from life, meaning I get fresh flowers from my florist and then I look at them. And like right now, behind the phone, I have some lilacs and some peonies. Lilacs are from the florist, but the peonies are from my garden. I didn't want them to completely, go down. And so for the longest time, I had framed my paintings in vintage frames. But at this moment in time, the vintage frames, the cost is so high. So I have a library of vintage frames that for my future paintings. But what you noticed, it's true. There's something about it that vintage frames just
Add to
wow,
it.
chef's kiss.
I
Chef's
can.
kiss. And realist painters or photorealism painters who, what they see, that's what they paint. That looks like a picture. It's amazing how they do that. I have amazement at it and I admire it because I would not be able to do that. I need to be able to express myself on the canvas, which they do in their own way. I express myself in an impressionist way. And so that part, the feeling that you capture when you paint fresh flowers, because flowers wilt very fast. There's something there for me. But I think because each painting means something different to every person, right? Art is very subjective.
I totally agree. Thank you for explaining that to me. So, are there simple exercises someone can do at home to start feeling comfortable with a brush?
Absolutely. And it doesn't even have to be a brush. Again, it's about hands and doing something with your hands. I think the most important thing is to each individual member of your audience is to, if there's even little light up in their eyes, a little twinkle in their heart of something they see, you know, clay, woodworking, anything. I know that's not what you asked me, but I just wanted to say that if there's anything like that, take a class, just give yourself permission to take that class. I don't want it to be just one more thing to do on someone's plate if they're drowning. But I think once per season, once per summer, once per spring, you are able to take one little class. Give yourself permission to do that because only good things come out of that. But if I was starting, so I'm starting in June, I'm going to be doing also floral sessions with Ovi on YouTube, free painting once per month. And so you actually do not have to have any experience. The only thing is that the entry, when I do my workshops, I provide all supplies. For this, you need to get, the supplies to paint on, to paint wherever you are in your kitchen or wherever you're painting from. Just you need a little bit of, if anybody wants to, any YouTube video, non-toxic oil tutorial or something, just get basic couple of colors and any brushes, that you like, that speak to you. And then just any YouTube tutorial and just start just even doing circles or doing some doodles. And just get comfortable with it. And again, it doesn't have to be oil painting. It can be anything that, even to the smallest degree, has sparks any little electricity in your eye or in your heart. That's it. That's what you, that might be the path for you. But with paintbrushes, truly, it's not about the talent. Everything is learnable. That's the encouragement that I want to leave with, with your listeners, because it's truly, so many people say, oh, you have such talent. Some people have faster way of learning things, basically. But if it's a skill you practice, you'll be able to do it. And so why I'm going to be doing these on YouTube is because I believe that everybody deserves art should be accessible to everybody. But I know I'm working on getting one full kit of oil painting supplies to someone so that they would be able to start painting. You cannot do it in bulk, but one person at a time per month, one person per month. That's what I will try to do with my nonprofit.
Thank you. That sounds really, really interesting. And I do agree with you that art should be accessible. So definitely, I will definitely be checking out your YouTube videos because I love to paint. I have some of my paintings around here actually. I just don't paint impressionist. I love the technique. So I'm an observer and admirer, but I'm definitely a realist if we're talking about painting. Yes. So what's your philosophy on mistakes in painting? How do you guide people when they feel they've ruined something?
Oh, I do not vocalize that they ruin something. That's in oil, you can paint over everything. You can remove the paint and paint over it. So the most common thing that I see, let's say, it's okay. I just say it's okay. And I just help them. Brush can put the paint on, brush can also take it, scrape it off the canvas. And if they lose, let's say, shadow shape or something like that, everything is fixable. You can just take a little bit of medium, take it off, and restart. I truly don't make a big deal out of it. That's number one. Never make a big deal out of it, and a little bit of guidance, and we're back on track. That's it.
Thank you. I totally agree that one cannot really make mistakes with art or with painting. And like you said, if you do feel you made a mistake, just paint over it. So that's what my
Yes.
teacher told me when I started learning painting. That's what they told me. So I definitely agree with you.
Yes.
So, how do you navigate creative blocks, especially when you're the guide for other people?
Um, I personally do have creative block sometimes because I suffer from depression. And so lately it has been pretty good. But every time I have a depressive episode, somehow it always comes with a creative block or not wanting to go to the easel, to the canvas. I used to force myself. I used to force myself to paint, but that wasn't working. That's truly not a gentle way. I know some people they create that program and it works for them. It doesn't work for me. So when I have a creative block, what I found works for me every single time is just finding a beautiful picture of sunflowers, any sunflowers, and painting sunflowers. It just, even though if I don't want to do it, just going through the motions of putting that bright yellow on the canvas, every time it pulls me through. And then once I get those creative juices going, somehow it breaks it for me. I mean, I pick myself up like this and put myself on the chair, put my paints down. I still don't want to do it. But if the subject matter is sunflower, it's my second favorite flower after peonies. It just somehow something about sunflowers it pulls me through. It just pulls me through, and so I found a way to deal with it by creating a sunflower. It doesn't have to be anything complicated. Something very simple, even if it's a one bloom or so that helps me a lot.
Thank you for sharing that because it's always important for people to feel like they have a routine or a practice that brings them out of that block or funk. So thank you for sharing. It's so important. I'm glad that you also have something as bright and cheerful as sunflowers because, yeah, sunflowers are so, like, they're such a pick me up.
They're
So,
universal. Yeah.
right? Yeah, I
Yes.
totally agree. So, what do your own creative rituals look like? Any scents, music, morning lights?
Yes. So I like to I like this one candle maker that I found on Instagram, and I usually get her candles. She has like seasonal, so she takes vintage vessels, some kind of beautiful, and pours her own wax. So I use one of her candles. I light a candle. I lay out my paint, and usually when the kids we say prayers as a family, before every night. They are now teenagers, so not always they go to sleep right away after we say prayers, but still. So my kids are now 13, the boys, and the daughter is 15, but we still like out loud. We go to their room, to the boys' room, and we say prayers, and then I come down. I already have my paints laid out. Um, I light a candle, and sometimes I have a glass of wine too. And I use the same brush with everything, meaning like the same type of brush called filbert. It's like a little rounded brush. There's lots of shapes. And I'm a proponent of the camp that it's better to learn how to use one tool very well to see what it can do for you than using 55 brushes for one brush for each little function. And that works for me. And then sometimes I put the music of Dean Martin. I don't know if you know him. I love his voice. Not every single time, but sometimes I do when I truly need that extra oomph, that extra calming energy. And then I start to paint. Sometimes if I have flowers, then I have to put the studio light on to create this stark shadow and light. And I put my shadow box around the flower composition. When I don't have that and I paint from picture, I just print out, a photo and I print from that. And then usually takes me, if I do a larger painting, 3 hours. If I do like little minis, then I do 2 or 3 a night. And I usually have a specific vintage frames that I paint for. But that's how usually it goes. And then always important to remember to, blow that candle out.
Thank you for sharing that with me. Very inspiring because I feel like it helps when you have a ritual because then
Yes.
you're putting yourself in that mind state of, I'm going to paint, I'm going to produce something.
Yes.
I feel like going straight into it doesn't really, from my experience, it doesn't really help. I'm starting to see from what you've said that if I had a ritual, then my brain would be like, yes, it's time to paint, it's time to create. So we're going into that mind state. I was like, okay, I can incorporate this into my own art practice. So, what do you hope women walk away with after painting with you? Not just in the art, but in their lives?
I hope that they walk out with a lighter heart. I hope that they will be encouraged to do something for themselves more often, where their moms, that they maybe will be more encouraged to say, oh, that felt so good. Maybe I should, get a babysitter and go out maybe next month as well. I'm hoping that they will say that self-care felt good, and that they will feel more themselves, and that they will be encouraged to start something and then maintain that what they've started, because maintaining is very, very different story. But I truly hope that that they will know that you don't have, they also will be maybe braver to start to try different things, because oil painting can be so intimidating. But maybe they will choose to take a different class, maybe create a mosaic, one of those sip and paint classes of some sort, like a workshop. Not some people are allergic to commitment. So if you're allergic to commitment, you know, just a one workshop, maybe they'll be a 10 more adventurous with how they use their creativity, or how they, instead of scrolling, maybe they will arrange flowers in their home. That's what I hope for. I don't hope for volcanic shifts, but little shifts, little inspirations. And I hope that they will tell their friends about what a good of an experience they have, and then their friends come. That's how it happened that now in June I have 2 workshops. It's supposed to be a monthly club, but it didn't feel good on my heart to turn people away. So I did 2. I did 2, and then we break for summer. But yeah.
Thank you for sharing that. Overall, this conversation has been so insightful because as somebody that paints on the side and I've taught myself how to paint, I was a natural painter. I've actually even made the shift, or I made the shift from acrylics to oil paints in 2023. So everything you've been saying, I just feel like, wow, like, okay, maybe I have to start using non-toxic oils as well. What would my painting be? Because I have canvases around that still have incomplete paintings and all of that. But there's just this push now. There's just this drive now to pick up the brush and just be like, you know what? Let's just paint. Let's just do what we can. So thank you for inspiring me, because I do love painting a lot. I love painting so much. And it's that perfectionism that keeps me from going back, especially moving, because I like to challenge myself. I was using acrylics fine, dandy, and I just said, let's do oils. And I have no regrets. I love oils, but I still have to forge that relationship. I still have to get the right, what's the right word? The turpentine to mix. I still have to put on my primer on my easel, on my canvas. So there's so many things, and I've just been stalling because I'm like, can you even paint with oil? Like, who do you think you are? But I've actually done something with oil already. So it's just practice and just removing that whole idea of having to be perfect. You're just expressing, you're just using your hands. So it's going to cause you to distress and relax. There's so much more to benefit from the practice. So thank you for sharing that with me, Ovi. This was such a lovely conversation, honestly. Thank you for sharing yourself and your work with me.
Oh, you're very welcome. And if you would like, I'll send you after this in an email what I'm using and the differences between toxic and non-toxic. There's a few challenges and how to overcome them. I can
Okay.
send that to you.
Thank you so much. You have a lovely day, and we hope to see you next time on the show.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Viv. It was
Yes.
lovely.
Take care of
Thank
yourself.
you. Bye.